Buenas tardes. Good afternoon, everybody. You know that in the last months, the School of Architecture, we are making a big effort for promoting the idea of internationalization. We do believe that the traveling is a notion that is attached to the pedagogy of architecture. So what we have been doing in the last months is to take care of all our Erasmus agreements, for example. We are promoting them. We are even getting more agreements. You can now study in Venice, in Oporto, in Reykjavik. We are working with Finland and Sweden. So we are convinced that internationalization is a very important aspect of Alicante School of Architecture, and it is part already of your ADN. No? To a student who chooses to study in Alicante knows that can afford to spend 6 months minimum abroad. We can send up to 120 people, and this year we have been only 39. Then means that we are missing many Erasmus scholarships that they are waiting for you. So we encourage you now to ask for them, to apply after Easter. We are receiving as well better students from Europe, and they are coming here to our school with their own ideas, their own knowledge, and making ourselves better. That is really our belief, no? How to improve ourselves. And indeed, one of the tasks for us is that every time we travel, we scan, no? We check what is the most interesting aspect, the most interesting person we get to know abroad, and we are bringing them here. This is the case of our guest, the best Icelandic artist called Rúrí. It was before Christmas when we organized a field trip with the master students. We went to Iceland, and of course in Iceland we went to see the geyser, we went to see waterfalls, we saw the northern lights, Aurora Boreal, and of course in the list, compulsory list, it was the work of Rúrí, who attended us in a very generous way in her office. So we have wanted to share with all of you that you didn't come that experience. I would like her to be introduced as she deserves, so I would appreciate José María Torre Nadal, our catedrático, to make an introduction. Thank you.
Bueno, seguiré con el inglés. Qué remedio. In order to introduce Rúrí's work, I want to read something that I have known just one day ago, but I think it's really very important and very special for this moment, and said, ecology is not about global warming, recycling, and solar power, and also not just to do with everything relationship between humans and inhumans. It has to do with love, loss, despair, and compassion. It has to do with depression and psychosis, ecology. Okay, I am talking about ecology. It has to do with capitalism and what might exist after capitalism. It has to do with amazement, open-mindedness and wonder. It has to do with doubt, confusion and skepticism. Ecology, it has to do with concept of a space and time. It has to do with delight, beauty, ugliness, disgust, irony, and pain. It has to do with consciousness and awareness. It has to do with ideology and critique. It has to do with reading and writing. It has to do with race, class, and gender. It has to do with sexuality. It has to do with ideas of self and the weird paradoxes of subjectivity. It has to do with society. Ecology, it has to do with coexistence. I think it's a very nice introduction to the work of Rúrí because all the thing it has to do with art, and to have the occasion to see your work and to enjoy your work, it's really a very special occasion for all of us. Thank you so much, Rúrí, for being here, and thank you to help us to go beyond the reality and to help us to learn to dream. Thank you, Javier, to bring Rúrí and enjoy the lecture.
So I have to turn me on, I understand. So I'm very grateful to have the opportunity. Is it too loud? He will have to come here, and for the first time that I am in Spain, it has been my hope that at some time I have the opportunity to come here. I never travel as a tourist, you know, so that's my problem. So, but I will go straight into strange voice. Yeah. I will tell you first about some of my first works, and then take you a little through my development until the day-to-day, but with hopping between periods. My work has sometimes been categorized in categories like time, relativity, cosmos, and identity as well. And I work in very diverse techniques. So in the beginning, people had problem with identifying what was my style, and complained a lot. But this work is called The Golden Car, and it was the first time I was showing in public in Iceland in an outdoor sculpture exhibition. And so I choose to cover this or coat this car in a golden patina. And this was a luxury model of a family car, a Mercedes-Benz. You know. It's really the luxury model of the time when it was made. It has mahogany on the inside, you know, which is not important, but just to tell you of the quality of the car. So I just show you the next slides. 1 week after the opening of the exhibition, it was advertised on the spot that there would be a performance later that day. And I started by spreading coins over the car, like a religious act. And after that, I knelt in front of it, but then I jumped up, shouting, "You car, I will not be thy servant." And that's me on the left-hand side in a checkered shirt. So I started to hammer the car, and then I had the assistance from members of the audience who were very willing to assist in this act. And well, that was the end of the performance. I was already stopped myself. You can maybe see me here holding a child. And that was the end of this performance. The reason I did this performance was that at the time, and in the previous years, the city of Reykjavík had been tearing down many of our old wooden houses, which were, of course, a part of our history. And they were being destroyed in a way that you all are familiar with today, having people who were not able to take care of themselves because of alcoholism live in them, and then tearing them down because they were getting too worn out. And yes, that was my first entering on the art scene in Iceland. I instantly became world famous in Iceland. This work is when I went to Holland, the Netherlands, to do my academy study, and there I was getting more and more aware of the global, how do you say, regarding the world as a globe, as one globe, and not singular countries. And I was writing to people all around the world, asking them to cut up a piece of turf. I'll show you the next one. So a piece of turf with the soil and a photograph of the sky above. So the idea was to see, oh, come on, what's going on? If there was a totally different sky in Russia from the one in California, for instance, and if the top vegetation was very unfamiliar from one place to another. In the time when it was collected in 1978, they were all green, but now they have turned this brown color. And then I don't put any marks on the map, but it's important that it is a geological map and not a political map. And here's another one from my young artist life. It's a, you can see this is a test tube. The image is a little bit transparent. And what it says is sky blue. A sample taken over Reykjavík city on the 10th of July in 1978. That's the filling of the test tube. And the time may come, this will be unrecognizable, we don't know. And here is one more piece about ecology, one aspect. This is from the highest mountain in Holland called Valserberg. And you note the little drawer. On one side you can see the map, and here is Valserberg. And it says it's 321 meter high. And here is a text, I think I have to read it to you. It says, "Homage to Holland, assuming that every tourist that climbs the Valserberg brings one small stone from its top to his house as a souvenir. The mountain will continually become lower and lower. Therefore, this stone will become very valuable, as it was taken from the top of Valserberg, while its height was still 321 meters. And then this is in 1983, an installation at the Reykjavik Art Museum, and the title is A Forest. So I was really getting worried about deforestation and how we consume paper and what becomes of the forests. And besides that, this is probably, or it is one of the first large-scale installations in Iceland. And there is an Icelandic forest on a slides back projected through paper. In 1984, I was doing a large installation called Glass Rain. Here we go. But it isn't important. So these are 500 pieces of very sharp cut glass. And all of them are hand cut. But in one place in the installation, there was if this is the installation seen from above, then there is a path going like that. So if one sees the opening, which is not necessarily visible to everybody, then one has to decide whether one wants to go into it, because you cannot see whether you can go through or not. So not many people risk entering the work. Come on, this is not. So here's another work from 1984. This is from an exhibition organized by a group of artists. Artists from all the Scandinavian countries came together, 10 of us, and we had a meeting and we decided to make projects with outdoor artworks and have artists traveling to the spot and make site-specific works. So we had 3 weeks of working, preparing our works, and then the exhibition opened. And we were living in the same spot, cooking together and having discussions. But before that, artists didn't travel with their exhibition in Scandinavia. The artworks were sent from one country to the other, and the artists stayed to home, and the artworks never talked to each other and never brought any information back to the countries or the artists. So this way we were creating a network. It was called Experimental Environment. This work is called Desolation, and we were working with concrete in this project. And what I did was I recreated a ruin from a completely ruined small town, which had been built of concrete. And this is in a very busy square in Copenhagen. So thousands of people were crossing there every day. And next year, we had an exhibition in Malmö in Sweden, which was called Big Scale 85. And this work is a future state of this pavilion. This pavilion is in a nearby park in Malmö, and I borrowed the architectural drawings from the State Archive and rebuilt it in the state you saw before. So this is a documentation of the planning process. And here is one more. This one is from Helsinki. That exhibition was called Concrete and was a part of the art festival of Helsinki, which was quite new at that time. And here we were just kind of a lottery. We had to draw a piece of paper from a hat, and there was the name of the place where we should work. So we had no selection. We just had to work with that space. And when I visited the space, I don't know if you can see it. Well, actually, the house at the end of the street was so dominating, totally dominating the area there, that I was thinking, this is ridiculous. No matter what I do, the house will take all that attention. So it's no use doing anything there. But then I kind of was thinking, well, if you can't beat them, join them. Or better take the bull by the horns and start working with it. And this work is the corner of the building rebuilt in 2 future stages. And the title is Time Concrete. Here's a work, all these works that I've been talking about, this time work, Desolation, Time Pavilion, and The Glass Rain, actually have their origin in the fact that we had a Second World War and they were being produced what was called in Iceland the atomic bombs, fusion bombs or what we call them. In the Cold War, during the Cold War, when I was a kid, we would have news at the same time as lunch and dinner. So we would hear the news, kind of eating the news together with our food. And they told us that now they could make a bomb that was 5 times as powerful as the one that was dropped on Hiroshima. And then some while later, they could make a 20 times more powerful bomb, etc. And the discussion came to that now the humankind has created such powerful weapons that we can destroy all humanity, and not only all humanity, but all life on Earth. And then I'm still not 10 years old. This is the reality that we were facing. And this has been kind of coloring my art, this knowledge, that we are actually relying on a handful of men, that they keep their hands away from a certain button. They don't push that button, because that will be the end of it. So in 94, 95, the media was massively informing about the Rwanda-Burundi conflict, and later the Yugoslavian conflict. And it was really massive information and really depressing. And at one point I just felt that I had to make a work about it, because it was kind of too depressing. That was my only solution, to work with it. And one of the things I did was I collected information about missing persons in the wars, and created this card file system with 100,000 cards. And in some of them there is personal information. And it was because we get the news like these are just numbers and statistics, but not human lives, persons that have parents and or siblings or children, a family. It's just numbers that disappear somewhere. And then I went to Sarajevo to photograph, and my husband was a video film producer, so he was doing video with me. You see how everything is filled with holes, you know, and it's not even, you know, even the light poles are like a drain, a sieve where you wash your vegetables. And this is also in Sarajevo. This is the former Olympic Stadium. It was, you couldn't see anything reminding of the Olympic Games. It was graves all over. I had an exhibition called Paradise When. With this work that I was showing you is all from a huge installation, 500 square meter installation, which was called the Paradise When. I'm not going to show more from that because it's so depressing. I don't want to depress you at this stage of your education. So this one is, has the title Directions, and it was an outdoor exhibition in Iceland. And each binocular or monocular is pointing in an exact direction. And here you can see one direction. It says 10,360 kilometer Mozambique. The others were pointing to Palestine, Sierra Leone, and one more, which I don't have it in mind at the moment. And here is, at a certain point, I started to compare violence against human beings to violence against nature. And then I was, in 2003, I was invited to exhibit for Iceland at the Venice Biennale. And this is the work I created. And every frame is a photograph of a waterfall. And it's transparent. And when you pull out the frame, one can, come on. One should be able to. Here's a video. I hope it plays. It's not playing? No. This is strange. What is happening? You know this?
Is the video, isn't it? Which one do you want to?
This one? Yeah. Okay. Okay. And how to make it on the full, yeah. How to make it on. And I guess. So I'm not tiring you with the loud sound, but it's a full, it's a very powerful audio system. So when one is pulling out one frame, the voice of that waterfall is heard. And it's directional as well. And one can pull up to 5 frames out at the same time. But then one has to return one to be able to take another out. Each of these waterfalls are or were in danger of being destroyed or seriously disturbed. And since that exhibition, almost half of the waterfalls have been destroyed or seriously disturbed. And the remaining ones are still on the wishing list of the electricity company of Iceland. So I think that is enough of this. That was good. So it always jumps to the beginning. Where were we? Oh, yeah. So I had a different work for you. And again, I have a video, so I don't know. You are joking. Okay, go directly. What? Here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No.
But we're in one place.
This one?
Yes, I was going to. Okay. Okay, thank you. And then I was continuing to work with water, and here is from a installation, video installation with 5 video projections, and it's called Water Vocal Endangered. I call it the voices of the waterfalls because I decided to work with waterfalls because for me they are the strongest expression of water in the nature. And for me, the waterfalls are like personalities. So their sound is like their voice. And that is what I was doing here. I suppose I cannot have the video on here, or what? No? Yes? So it's a short video from that. The sound is very powerful. I'm not going to tire you with bringing it all the way up. No, come on. I'm no friends with that computer. But anyway, you had seen a little bit of it. Really, the sound is so powerful, you can feel it in your stomach, you know, it goes like that. And the best critic I ever got from that artwork was a man took his 5-year-old daughter there, and she didn't want to come out immediately, so he was talking with a friend, and after a while she comes out and says, Daddy, I went into the waterfall and I didn't get wet. So that's the best critic I ever got. You know. This is another work called Tur Mining. It is a showing of the photograph that you see here is of a waterfall called the Magic waterfall, or magical waterfall. And what you see is that it goes through a paper shredder. And there is an automation on it, a sensor, so that when somebody approaches the work, you know, coming closer to it, the shredder starts working. But there is a random element in it, so it doesn't shred always the same length, but some length, and then it stops by itself. And what I am thinking about in this work, because this work was at that time sinking into a huge reservoir on the east, in the east highlands of Iceland. There was the reservoir is, I don't remember the size of it, but the dam is 190 meters high in height, and in the process of making this dam and the electrical power plant it is built for, about 100 waterfalls were destroyed. And this is one of those waterfalls that at the time of the exhibition was halfway sinking into the reservoir. It's gone now. And what I wanted to show is that even though we don't know that we are having effect on nature, we do. And we may, even if we know we are having an effect, we do not necessarily know how much effect we are having, or how great effect. And here is another work also about ecology. At the time I was preparing this exhibition, there was very much in the news the new ecology, the new eco-fuel, biofuel, made of corn. So rather than using black oil, we should take up the fields from agriculture and start planting this special corn, which we humans do not eat, in order to produce biofuel. And the biofuel doesn't pollute when it burns, or what? You tell me, you know. I think it produces just as much carbon dioxide as any other fuel. Well, the title of the work is Existential. Here is water, clear water, drinkable. And here is fresh air. And my question is, we already, many places of the world, we don't have drinking water. We have to buy bottled water or save water to drink. When will we have to start buying our oxygen bottle for the day? When will that time come? So now I go to lighter elements called relativity. And I always, actually from the beginning as an artist, I wanted to make works about ethical values. But I couldn't find a way to or translate ethical values into material and form. And when I was at college, you know, the teachers were imprinting scientific thinking, and you have to be able to prove that something exists through making an experiment in a laboratory, and then you have to be able to repeat the experiment with same results. How do we make an experiment with parental love, which we can repeat again and again? How, or love of a couple for one another, or any other ethical value. And so it took me 20 years to find or stumble onto a solution for this problem. And that was when I was thinking about something totally different in my studio. And I'm one of those who thinks with their hands, you know, I always have to have something in my hands. And at that time I had a measuring folding measure 1 meter in my hand. So while I was looking out my window and thinking about a problem, I was folding with my hands. And suddenly I just look at it and I see I have made a geometrical form, and it's with the meter, folding it. And then suddenly, you know, I had a solution. Because the meter is one of the instruments we use to measure results of experiments. And if the instrument itself can have many appearances, then why cannot the subject itself have many appearances, different appearances? And each of these is exactly 1 meter. I never take them apart. I just fold them, and I decided to limit my research to geometrical forms that close on themselves. There's one exception I allowed myself here. So each of them is 1 meter. All the works I have made in this category have a title exactly what they are. This is a square meter, but 13 centimeter on its length. This is 5 meters. It's a cubic meter. 20 meters. What was this? 7 meters, I think. 4 meters, but it is a tetraeder as well. And this is from an exhibition. This is how I exhibit them, with a lot of space, you know, because ethical values have a lot of space. And this is the cubic meter, the first cubic meter. As you can see, they are 1 meter on each, it's also 1 meter on this length. So, yeah. Anybody have a problem with that? Then please raise your hand. So if the one I just showed you, the yellow one, is a cubic meter, then so is this one, because it's exactly the same size, this one and this one. This is just, I'm trying to be a little architectonic here in my work, no, showing you something that you might find working in nature. This is from the National Park in Iceland, Þingvellir, one of our most sacred places. And this is a work called Moderation, and it is it swings on the central point. If the wind is blowing, it starts swinging, and then it goes back into balance. So it was an exhibition with the values, what was it called? Plato. The classical values, yes. Here is another work in nature. This is in the slopes of volcano Vesuvius in Italy. And some 10 artists were asked to come and make artworks out of stone or lava that had come from the crater of Vesuvius at some time earlier. And I decided to work with geothermal activity or volcanic activity. Now I have to go back into that. So how did you, more down? This one? Uh-huh. Ah. Spanish is a beautiful language.
Terra vivente e vivace.
It's a mayor of Ercolano. So on the platform, I wrote the names of all volcanoes that have erupted in historic time, that is above sea level. So from all over the globe, I brought together in one place all the volcanoes, the whole family of volcanoes, because I see the volcanic activity of the Earth as one system. It's a family of volcanoes. Of course, you know, I come from a volcanic country. And it was very important for me that this stone, that one person could start it rolling. It's about 5 tons, the stone. But I wanted to show that a single person can have impact. So that's why the stone is like that. Here we go. Maybe I can just take this down like that. And here, and I'm learning. One more. So this is from an outdoor installation in München. And in this one, Osram built these screens, double-sided screens with LED lights. And they invited artists to come and make artworks for the screens. It's called, the project was called 7 Screens. And I just show you this is strange. There was a little video here, so let's hope it plays. Yes, but I'm not going to have the sound on. This is really boring sound. No. How do you do that? Okay. Just to show you, these videos are edited in a very special way, because they are not, it's not one video split over all the screens, changing all at the same point or time.
The running water is never silent.
This is something Osram made.
If the waters disappear, we will have silence.
Just to show you a few different views of it. So they are coming like that, they are edited like that, they are always changing when there is a change or cut in the film. And I thought it was interesting because usually we have these light posters, or what you call them, signs, light signs, for advertising either a firm or some product. But in this case, they were actually advertising their product through artworks to show the possibilities to work with their product. And they had some very well-known artists like, what is it, Stuber and these 3 guys from Austria. They have made some, the Twisting Tower is one of their products. And so I found it interesting also because this place is on a meeting of the green area around München and where the city is beginning. So I found it interesting to bring nature onto their screen. So it's a meeting of technology and nature on the screens, and it's a meeting of nature and city in the environment around. And this work I'm showing you now, the one I showed you was Aqua Silence. This is Waterfall Endangered 3 from last summer in a museum in Sweden. And I just wanted to show you how I work with my installations. There is a drawing. There are several entrances into the central space. And here are 6 projections. They are 5 meters high. And there is this colossal sound, as you heard earlier. And I thought it might be interesting to you to see that this is what I do often with my installations. I make a 3D model. I have a very cheap, free program that I use to draw, but it helps me design the place. And what I found very interesting or important is that here is a security exit, so there had to be this corridor here, but I wanted it to be attractive. So the first images I showed you were from this entrance or corridor. And what the people could do is that they could walk in from here, or here, or here, into the maze. They can walk behind the screens, and the sound is, you can hear it here as a very soft sound. Immediately when one passes this line here, it starts to go up in volume. And when one has entered the room, it is in full volume. But as one moves around inside the installation, the sound is going up and down, depending on the movements of the people. And when nobody is in there, it again goes into this silent, or not silent, but quiet mode. So it is, of course, computer controlled. Here is just from one of my most recent performances in Harpa House in Iceland. And I'm projecting both on the wall and on the floor. It's a vocal 7. It's called Founts. And it's about the lack of water. So here you can see part of the floor projection. And the audience was allowed in the last part of the performance to walk onto it, because actually this waterfall video draws people to it. People are compelled to walk towards it. It's really strange to see how it works. But again, this is a very powerful sound. This is from a similar performance I made in Ars Electronica Festival in Linz some years ago. And there I had massive information about the water problem in the world. So people came onto the floor and were reading the information or looking at the waterfall. And I can describe it to you shortly, or I can show you another video if you're not too tired. But the sound is quite brutal in this one. One of my last projects is called Future Cartography. Some years ago, about 8 years ago, I was starting to think about the global warming and how the sea level is rising, or supposed to be rising in the future. And I was thinking, how will the shorelines change? And at this time, I was too occupied with a retrospective exhibition that was coming up in 2012 and a book. So I couldn't focus on this until in 2012. And then I made these maps. They are based on NASA geographical database. And this is from a museum in Iceland. So I had decided to work with the Nile, where it comes in to the lowland, and the Nile Valley, Bangladesh also here. What I am calculating is what scientists have predicted 67 till 70 meters heightening of the sea level if the southeast half of the Antarctica ice shelf melts. And we have to remember it's not only the ice that is melting because of global warming, but the sea water itself is warming. And when water is warmed, it expands. The average depth of the ocean is 3 kilometers. So unfortunately, I don't have with me or haven't looked up how much it expands per centigrade. But let's say it expands 1% per centigrade, just to have something to calculate. That would mean 300 meters per centigrade, 300 meters higher. So I am afraid the scientists might not be wrong. How long it will take, we don't know, but it's obviously is going faster than was calculated in 2010. That's what we know from the news. It was also amazing for me that National Geographic didn't write about global warming and heightening of sea levels until 2012 or 13. That's the first time they had a major article about it. And it's supposed to be an important source of information on nature. So we see that the Bangladesh Delta is the most densely populated area of the Earth. And what we see here is all that is grayish here is this very densely populated. Here is the old or present seafront, but it would go up to here. It would sink the densest populated area of the Earth totally. And the same with the Nile Delta. It would sink under sea level. But I am moderate, so these are only calculated for 65 meters rise of sea level. So it will be worse if it goes like that, presumably. So that is the Nile Delta, the same. You can see how the present shoreline is here, but this is what happens if. And then I was invited to come to North America and show works there, and I made a map of the east coast of North America and the west coast of Iceland. So this is very interesting, I think, here. So I don't know how familiar you are with the geography of that country. I think that's supposed to be New York, or have been, Philadelphia. I never remember, is that Washington and that Baltimore? Boston is up here. So these are the main cities on the east coast of the States. All the main cities of the east coast of the States. I didn't take in the Gulf of Mexico, which will be even worse, because I didn't have the space for a second map in the exhibition. And then we come to some lighter stuff. I have been fascinated by the rainbow, even from childhood. And at some point there was a competition for an artwork at the air terminal, a new air terminal that was to be built in Iceland, and the artwork was placed there in 1991. So this is 24 meter high, stainless glass and stainless steel and stained glass, sorry. Just to show you, and it's a mouth-blown glass. You cannot get the brightness of the colors in standard glass, in flat glass. So they only produce it in mouth-blown glass. But the glass is laminated with flat glass, normal flat glass, because otherwise it couldn't stand the storms that we have in Iceland. There are very frequent storms and very hard storms at this airport. It's actually the stormiest airport in the world, and for instance, jet pilots are sent to Iceland to train in the harsh conditions there. Another rainbow I made was, I made both ends of the rainbow where it touches the ground with 70 meters in between. It's in front of the Reykjavik Art Museum. And I made it with salt and pigment. And this was in the early spring. So in early spring in Iceland, we can have snow and we can have rain and frequent shifting. And this is what happened. The rainbow is never stable. So actually, I could go back to the rainbow at the airport. You see, it is unfinished. It is an unfinished rainbow. So that was my way of getting around that I had to make something that a structure that would last. And the rainbow never lasts. It always stays only for a while and then it disappears. So for me it was a kind of an idea that after some years, maybe 100 years or 500 years, the people would gather together and decide they wanted to finish the rainbow, and they would build it on until it met the ground on the other side. But this is not that I hope it will be done, but this vision I find very attractive, that people combine to do something beautiful. Especially because at that time, in 1991, the American Air Force had a base at Keflavik. It was a NATO base. And I find it very appalling. I very much dislike having an armed force occupying a nation or country, another country, especially my own country. So I have to tell you about, in Iceland we have a folklore that if you can stand under the rainbow, you may have a wish, and the wish will come true. So actually, why I made this proposition for a proposal for a rainbow was I wanted to build a rainbow so I could go there, have a wish, and I did that, and my wish came true. The army left Iceland. So art can have power, you know, really. So let's get back to the last one. That is the first rainbow I made. And Please enter. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. I told you, students, that now is your opportunity to fire at me. Yes?
Firstly, welcome to here.
What?
Welcome to here. And thank you for coming also.
Thank you.
You're artist, and I'm thinking always about two terms, design and art. And I'm wondering what is the differences, design and art. And I mean, why are there two differences terms, designer and artist?
Well, I was not the one who made the definition like that. I think sometimes there is a big difference. Sometimes there is so much overlapping, it's hard to see what is what. They are kind of coming together. You know. Myself, I had to choose between going to architecture or art when I was young, you know, because I saw it as two possibilities for my future. But what we sometimes, we used to have that definition that art has a concept, but I know that design has a concept too, so that definition isn't valid anymore. You know. So I don't know how to define that. I'm sorry, I can't give you the answer. That's maybe why I'm here, because the barriers are softening up. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, I suppose. I wouldn't have been invited. But art is something that really, I cannot escape being an artist. I must do and express in art. And I was lucky, I understood this when I was quite young, that this was my destiny. You know. We couldn't use that kind of words when I was young, because that was almost a blasphemy to talk about destiny. You know, I'm an artist because that's my destiny. You know. But nowadays, I think we are allowed to use that kind of expressions. And I think what I have been trying, because I often get questions, so I'm trying to define myself. I also question myself. So I was trying to analyze what is it that makes art for me, or me personally, and my art. And I think art is philosophy. And this philosophy is translated into material and form. sometimes emotions as well, if that explains anything. And then also, I regard myself as an observer, and I record my observing or observations into artworks. So I'm not a creator, I'm an observer. Yes? Excuse me, my users.
Which impact would you like your artworks produce in society today?
I hope with my art to provoke awareness. I cannot hope for anything more than that. Awareness, yes. Awareness of... Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, yeah. Yes?
We saw in your artworks that you were really fascinated with water.
Yes.
And my question is, do you think you became such a good artist because of the place where you from Iceland and connected to water? And do you think when you're from another country you would see what things could be?
I'm sure one would see nature or society differently, depending, because we have a point of view, you know. So that is, that's actually why it is so important to travel and stay for a while in a different country, because in that situation we can reflect back on our home country, and we can see what we didn't see while we were in it. We are taking the distance to reflect on that. And that's really, one learns a lot from that. That is very educating. I have stayed abroad several times, you know, for longer periods. But I'm certain that being brought up in Iceland, and although I'm born in Reykjavik, I spent half the year always in the northwest part of Iceland, which was quite isolated at the time, in my grandparents' place. And I regard myself as extremely lucky to have had that opportunity. There we had mountains, we had rivers, we had numerous waterfalls, we could row on the sea, on the ocean, you know, and that was a perfect place for children to grow up. So I know nature from my childhood. And then I have also been living in a tiny island on a big bay. And when we looked to the west, we would see Greenland if we could see it. So, and one was aware of it. And that was the strange thing, living on this island with a huge horizon all around. Somehow one becomes aware of that one is on a globe, because you see the curve of the earth. And we know there are other nations, other individuals over there. And one doesn't feel isolated, but on the contrary, one feels connected. It's totally opposite to what many people think. Yes?
I would like to know about your first work shown in both parts. You said that you became very fast famous with your first work. And I would like to know how the reaction of people were, whether shocked or whether
That's exact. That,
was a very strong symbolic action.
actually, a lot of people got very shocked, very angry. And actually, I never got an explanation whether they were angry because I showed the car as a sculpture, because that was part of the criticism, or because I destroyed a car, or because I destroyed a sculpture. but the media made me infamous instantly. So, but we make a joke because Iceland is, or Icelanders is such a small nation. So when the media is like that, we call it to become world famous in Reykjavik. We are joking about ourselves a little bit. But there were other people who were stimulated and happy with it. And I'm still today, 40 years later or 42 years later, I meet people who say, I was there as a kid, you know. I had been running errands for my father and I stopped there to see this. Oh, it was so fantastic, you know. So there are mixed reactions. Yeah. Yes? Yes, I was trying to show you that I design my pieces like architecture in a way, you know, although the architecture is a frame around the installation. But an installation, one has to think in space and compose the space itself. And we also have to think about structure, like in the rainbow. I have to think about the structure is strong enough to hold up. The balance has to be there. Actually, I tell you a secret. There's 240 tons of concrete underneath. Because it's a very stormy place. We also have earthquakes. So if it moves, it will go like the doll, you know, or like the stone at Vesuvius. It goes back into balance. So. But I was cooperating with engineers to calculate how it was done, like that. Yes?
At the beginning of the presentation,
Yes?
you said something like that you never travel
As
as a tourist.
a tourist?
Yeah.
No.
And for me, having grown up here in Alicante, like all the rhythm and all everything is always like that. And I've traveled quite a bit. And I always try like not to do the tourism stuff.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's like stuff that you have to not play. Like when you go to Rúrí, you have to see those, you have to go to Rúrí because in the end it's like a tourist point. And I don't know how to travel without feeling like a tourist.
It's because I travel quite a bit. But I only travel when I'm exhibiting or in relation to making new works where I have to study the space or work on the work, or giving lectures. But I simply don't have the time to be a tourist in the stand-up way. What? Yeah.
Thank you very much on behalf of Alicante University and Politécnica for such a fresh air from the north.
Thank you. Thank you.